evening and welcome to the first evening of our Teagasc Virtual Hill Sheep Conference. Thank you for joining us here this evening. My name is Phil Creighton, Teagasc Sheep Researcher based in Athenry, and I will be your host for this evening's event. I would firstly like to call on our Director, Professor Jerry Boyle, to open this Virtual Hill Sheep Conference. Over to you, Director.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first night of this year's Virtual Hill Sheep Conference. The hill sheep sector is hugely important from both an economic and environmental perspective. First, nearly a third of our national ewe population comes from the hills. And second, of course, having hills grazing the sheep is the surest way of maintaining the upland environment in the best possible state. But I do think it's important to emphasize that sustainability is first and foremost about ensuring that hill farmers have a viable living from their sheep enterprise. A quarter of the national sheep output actually originates on the hills. The last couple of years have been particularly positive for the sector. And actually, it's important to note that Ireland is now the largest net exporter of sheep meat in Europe and about the fourth largest in the world. As we're aware, prices, thankfully, last year were up significantly on 2019. And following that, gross margins per ewe in 2019 were about €35, a significant increase again on 2018. And if we look at it on a per hectare basis, the gross margins in the top third of sheep flocks were about €550 per hectare. And on the bottom third, it was €24. So there was one big lesson there, that there's huge variation within flocks. And the positive message is that there's great room for improvement. And Teagasc are supporting the sheep sector through continued research and advisory input. We're achieving success, for example, in finishing lighter carcass lambs in the range 12 to 16 kilograms intensively on farms. And of course, that leaves more grass available for the ewes. I want to also acknowledge everyone involved in the Better Farm Sheep Programme and particularly mention the hill sheep farmers that are involved in that programme. Over the next 2 nights, we have an excellent assembly of speakers. Tonight we have David and Linda McLaughlin from Greencastle in County Donegal. They've been involved in the Teagasc Better Farm Sheep Programme since 2008. And they will be joined to discuss their experience with John Cannon, who's of course our sheep advisor in the Donegal region. And if I might mention the fact that John is due to retire, and John has put in fantastic work over several years in Donegal and has a reputation right across the country. And I want to wish John, and I'm sure you'll all join me, the very best in his retirement. Also, tonight we have Kevin McDermott from Sheep Ireland, and he's going to be talking about the importance of recording and how we can do it, recording parentage, and also the maintenance of flock books for hill sheep. And then on Thursday night, we have 2 speakers again. Annette Zintel from UCD, who will talk about tick-borne diseases that affect, of course, animals and humans. And our second speaker is Liz Geneva, who's a consultant from Lincolnshire in the UK. And she will talk about the importance of body condition scoring. And finally, I'd like to thank all of my colleagues who've been involved in the organization of tonight's event. And I hope that all of you will be able to find take-home messages that you can put into practice on your own farms. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. So with that, we will get proceedings underway. Tonight, we have two very interesting presentations for you. Each of our speakers will present for around 20 minutes each, and we will then take questions at the end. As viewers, you can submit your questions for our speakers using the question and answers box at the bottom of your screen, and I will then put as many of these questions as I can to our speakers during the questions and answers session at the end. Okay, so first up this evening, we welcome a joint paper from John Cannon and David McLaughlin. David McLaughlin farms with his wife Linda and their family at Hillhead, Greencastle, County Donegal. The McLaughlins run both a sheep and suckler cow enterprise on the farm, with the sheep flock split between hill and lowland flocks. They have been participants in the Teagasc Better Sheep Farm Programme since 2008 and have demonstrated clearly over the years that the targets set for both hill and lowland farms are consistently achievable through application of appropriate technologies and management strategies. Joining David is his Teagasc Advisor, John Cannon. John is a dry stock advisor based in Letterkenny, but originally from a sheep farm in West Donegal. He has farmed as an advisor in Donegal since graduating from UCD and has led the Teagasc Sheep Advisory team in Donegal for the last 12 years. He has been a sheep advisor to David and Linda McLaughlin during their period in the Teagasc Sheep Better Farm Programme. And the topic of their presentation tonight is sustainable hill flock management, balancing a high output flock with hill grazing management. Over to you, David and John.
Okay, thank you, Philip, for that introduction. Tonight, I'm David McLaughlin and myself. Welcome David there now from Greencastle.
Good evening, everybody.
David McLaughlin and myself are delivering a paper here called Sustainable Hill Flock Management, Balancing a High Output Flock with Hill Grazing Management. And it's basically looking at the Sheep Better Farm Programme on David McLaughlin's farm since it started in 2008. Now, just to explain the Sheep Better Farm Programme for those who may not know what's involved in it, the programme's objective was to establish focal points for the implementation on farm of technology that is relevant to the sheep sector, progressing that technology and evaluating it. And it involved the participating farmers hosting farm walks and groups throughout the years of the programme. Now, I'll just introduce the location for David's farm. As David and Linda, his wife and children, farm in Greencastle, County Donegal. That's up in the Inishowen Peninsula. And the farm is laid out in three main blocks. There's a home block of just under 10 hectares, 25 acres, greenland, mostly greenland with some improved hill. There's a hill farm then of about 150 hectares and it's adjusted back to about 30 and a couple of different sections there. And there's an out farm of 17 hectares, which we call the lowland block. Now, just maybe to describe the farm details, I'll ask David, maybe first of all, David, you have a hill flock and maybe you'll tell us what kind of flock that is.
That's 250 Lanark black-faced ewes and about 80 replacements kept every year. And
when are they lambing down?
They're due to lamb from the 5th of April onwards, John.
Okay. And then your lowland flock?
There's 120 ewes this year. There'd be 90 of them would be Belclare crosses, and there's 30 ewes I would take from Hull, aged ewes, get another year of them on the lowland.
And what do you do with those aged ewes? What do you breed them to?
Put a blue Leicester ram with them to get mules, and would keep the ewe lambs for Donegal mule sale.
And the other ewes are mated with Texel.
Texels.
And all the lambs are sold out of that. You keep no replacements from that.
No, they're all sold off grass, finished off grass mostly.
Now, in addition to that lowland flock there on that lowland farm, there's also 17 autumn calving suckler cows and their followers. Now, just David, we'll just look at this Lanark flock a bit more. What rams are you using on that flock?
There'd be Lanark rams used, and I would use a Belclare ram on about 60 of them. That's every year there, just to get replacement ewe lambs for the lowland flock.
And what do you do with your ram lambs mostly?
Ram lambs, I would usually try and sell them, but the last few years I've finished them.
Okay. Now we look at the flock productivity of this whole flock, and just we have 3 years set up on the chart on the table here: 2008-9, which is the base year when the year started, and we also look at 2014-15 and 2015 and 2019-20. I suppose the most important line in that is the bottom line here: lambs reared per ewe mated. And even the year David started, or before he started, it was a good lambing weaning percentage. He had about nearly a lamb per ewe weaned, which is very good, for a whole flock. But since the program got underway and since the middle of the program to now, he's weaning about 1.2 lambs per ewe. Now it can dip to 1.15, but last year past there is 1.13, which is a very good weaning percentage. Mortality is about normal enough, ranging from 10 to 15%, and the number of ewes mated, and it hasn't changed much. 223 at the start of the program, and it's varies between, we'll say, 245 to 250 at the present time. So that's it. Now, just to put things in context, if you have no greenland, weaning 0.9 to a lamb per ewe is very good performance. David has a significant amount of greenland, so he's aiming to win about 1.2 lambs per ewe. Sorry, that's not moving. Yeah. Now, just we look at the number of key aspects of the farm plan that's operating on David's farm, and there's 3 key aspects to that: the breeding policy for both the hill flock and the lowland flock, ewe body condition, and a clear plan for managing the hull. And I'll ask David maybe to take us through that now over the next number of slides. David, first of all, you've changed the breeding policy since the start. Maybe you describe it again at present time.
Well, before I started the Better Farm, I would have been all horned rams in the hull. But since I started that, I've used this Belclare ram to get ewe lambs for lowland flock. Didn't really want to use them at the start, thinking I wouldn't have enough of horned ewe lambs, but with the weaning rate up, I do have enough of ewe lambs, so these replacements for the lowland. So.
And are you happy with those replacements in the lowland flock?
Aye, they do a good job, John. They'll be a smaller ewe, but it means I rear them on the hull. It means I can sell all my lambs in the lowland, not having to rear ewe lambs.
And no problem numbers wise, you have plenty of lambs.
Aye, it works out every year that I have enough of ewe lambs.
No, but in the lowland flock, they're good for their fertile ewes.
Oh, aye, they're scanned there this year 2.1, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, just on that chart as well, we have a sidebar there showing that the last crop Lanark ewes that are mated with the blue Leicester ram. These are not kept on the hull now. These are on the greenland. These 30 ewes here that are on this side here.
Yeah.
Just maybe take me through we have a slide here on body condition. How do you approach body condition, or do you think it's important?
Oh, it's very important, John. You try to have them as good as they can all year, but at mating time you want them to be in good body condition.
And what difference does it make to have them in good body condition at mating?
Well, if you have them in good body condition, they'll have more lambs free. If they're after weaning, if they're a bit thin, so I would put them in September and go through them again. And then it's a bit thin, try and keep them in the green ground along with the ewe lambs. bring them up at condition.
Okay. Now the grazing approach now on the farm. This here is a block of the hill block really, and the plots 4 and 5 there in front of you are heather covered blocks. They're big blocks of hill. Those other green the green areas there are improved land. The one that's in plot number 7 can be cut for silage. Number 8 is too rough for that, just grazing land, and 9 and 10 is really they're semi-improved. They're improved heather, but they're not really. They're just kind of rough grazing, but they get some fertilizer. And those areas 6 are not grazed. But what kind of a management plan have you for the hill, David? Do you stick to dates, or how do you approach the grazing management?
Certain times of the year the ewes are on the hill. Other times of the year make the best use of the green ground. For tapping time, they're on the green ground November, December, and at lambing time they'll be on the green ground from 1st April till the middle of May.
Now you mentioned there the tapping time. Yours is mated from the 10th of November to the 18th of January, isn't that correct?
18th, 20th of December there.
So 18th of December, yeah, sorry. And what happens then?
Oh, they all go to the hill there, block 5. They all go to the hill there to scanning time. Yeah,
and where does your ewe lambs go at that point?
Ewe lambs would be going out to plot 4 there. Keep them separate, and I can feed them. You don't feed them every day, every second day maybe. It just helps to keep them gathered up.
Okay, and after Christmas, it will say, I know you start a bit of feeding, don't you, to the ewes?
Well, the ewes in the hull will get them high energy buckets for from beginning of January to scanning time.
Okay, and why do you feed those? They're expensive.
More for convenience, John. They're handy. You leave them up. I just go once a week with them, and I'll hunt the ewes up a couple of times, but if I'm up on the top of the hill, there's more to eat up there, more packing up there, and it'll keep them. The lick buckets keep them in an area that maybe the one doesn't be as well grazed in the summertime. The lick bucket helps keep them up there.
Okay. Now this is just a slide here of scanning time, and when again. It's a time that you scan the hill flock around now. So, what happens really? After scanning, or what do you do then at that stage?
All scanning, there'll be twins, and the empties will be taken out of it. Dose them alpha fluke, and the singles go back to the hill, and the twins go till a bit of greener ground that I've saved for them.
I think there's a picture here. Your singles, isn't it?
That's the singles up, getting cob nuts there. I usually give it every second day, kind of from scanning on to lambing. And
just cob nuts, they're a big nut, David, that you can feed on the ground, isn't that really?
You can go to a clean spot up in the same area, but you pick a dry spot, clean spot every day. Like, you don't have to be going along trees, like.
And as I say, your ewes with twins then, or they're taken to kind of rough grazing or rougher fields at home.
It's a rougher place. It's steep. They'll be there to the 1st April, but I would usually feed them in trays every day.
Okay. Now we'll just go on now to maybe going up to near lambing, and we'll just show you a clip here now of tagging of David tagging his lambs, and
hello there, I'm David McLaughlin, fireman at Teagasc here in Donegal. We're just about to start lambing the hull flock here, 250 ewes. The lowland flock has just finished lambing.
Okay, David. Just the EID tag in there. Did that add much to you? You weren't doing it before you started the program. Did it add much to your labour cost or your labour problems?
No, it does take a bit of time, John, but it's a job. Once you do it, it's done. And I find that whenever we used to be doing them as year old or like Christmas time when you put them on, you would get a lot of infections or you would lost tags. But doing them at that age, they seem to be no problem. You lost an odd one, but it doesn't affect their ears now.
Okay. And do you use the EID for ram selection, or can you use the
well, there's a lot of information on it there. If at weaning time, if you get lambs that a lamb or two that you like, you can go onto the computer and you can see who its mother or grandmother was, and it's interesting that way.
Now here we have some temporary pens that you use at lambing time. So this is really for your looking at your twin lambs, isn't it, David? These pens would have been used for. Maybe can you describe what happens here in these pens, or?
Well, just down below the gate there, that's where the twins are at the lamb, and as the lamb, they come up onto that temporary pen. Maybe if they could stay there, maybe for half a day or whatever, till they could use their lambs, or they're tagged there in that wee corner, just a temporary pen, and then they got the silage field just.
Okay. So do you only put up those every year at lambing time and they're taken down again then?
They're just put up temporary, yeah. Yeah.
Now, is it just maybe to focus on the we've covered some of this, but the singles are on green ground then, and so will the twins after lambing. How long do the singles stay there, or what's the plan for them every year?
No, they'll go to the green ground, and once comes 10th of May or so, 15th of May, they're taken and put, they get scabivax and done for ticks, and they put the hull. That's them for the summer on the hull. And
what happens then with the green ground, or what do you do?
Well, there's one of the fields there, take a bit of silage of it, another bit's the twins is moved around the green ground.
Yeah, and the area where the twins are is closed for silage.
And where they lamb is taken off that's for silage as well.
Yeah. So and the twins are kept on green ground really up until weaning time.
That's right, John. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a slide here now that where just to give you an idea. This is where the singles are taken, from before lambing. What happens there, David? On that, this is just a small green spot there, semi-improved land.
There's two paddocks there, and I'll divide the singles between the two pens or two fields, and then as the lamb, they just cross the road onto the handling unit for tagging, and they just go on down the field then.
Here we have just a slide here of some ewes and their lambs. Really, that's really what we have here, and just there maybe, David, what's happening there? You know the lambs are weighed at birth, obviously enough, and they're weighed then at
that'll be about 7 or 8 weeks there. They're getting weighed.
Okay, so and when are they weighed again?
After that second weight, they'll be weighed then at weaning again.
Yeah. Okay. Now, just this is the weaning weights here that we're looking at, the hull lamb performance just last year gone there, 2020, and we just look at the singles there. First, I was circled there. The weaning weight of those was just 27.9 or 28 kilos. A very good growth rate there of 234 grams per day, which is a very good growth rate for hull lambs. In fact, it'd be quite good growth rate for lowland lambs. David, what kind of weaning weights are you happy with, or what do you target?
No, you try to get them as heavy as you can, John, but I was happy with it last year. Now they were weaned. They were good enough weights this year.
And you see there at the bottom where we have a range of weights there, just as a breakdown of the weights, the different categories. you see there that 32% of the lambs were under 25 kilos. Over half of them were 25 to 30, which is good weight, and yet another 15% then over 30 to 35, and 1% over 35. So anybody knows that in a hill flock, lambs over 30 kilos are quite saleable, and it's a good idea for the weaning and lowland lambs or hill lambs to weigh them all at weaning time, and then do an assessment of how they fit into the different categories. The less lambs you have in this under 25 kilogram category, the better. Now, you will have some always, but you're aiming for it to get as many as possible, as near to 30 kilos. Just David, what happens with your ram lambs then most years at the present time?
They'll come in there to the aftergrass where the silage was cut, John, and I'll start to feed them September time, and just as they're fit to go for slaughter, and then come the end of October, they'll all be put onto the shade to be finished. Okay.
And this year, when was the last of them sold, or have you the most of them sold?
Most of them was away there just before Christmas. There was half a dozen lambs went in January there.
Which is really, excellent performance given, the amount of March-born lowland lambs that are still knocking around at the present time and will be up to, into March, and so it shows you the performance that's been achieved on this farm. Now we'll look at the flock profitability, and a quick glance at it. The hill flock there, gross margin, which is your sales, basically minus your main costs, feed, fertilizer, and veterinary costs, had a gross margin of just under €48, €47.98 this year, up from €13 in 2009. The lowland flock was up from €36, we'll say, in 2009 to just under €78 this year. And somebody might be looking at on a per hectare basis. That translates to €800 per hectare for the lowland flock, because the stocking rate's just about 10.05 ewes per hectare. The increase in profitability or gross margin over the years, mainly due to, first of all, there was a 0.2 of an increase in lambs weaned per ewe. Price probably has improved a bit as well, and on the stocking rate has also improved on the lowland flock from about 8 ewes per hectare to 10 ewes per hectare. But so it shows that the progress that has been made in the program. Now, just to recap again, the important things in the program to emphasize again was the breeding plan, the ewe body condition, especially at mating time, and the grassland plan, or the plan to utilize the hill as much as possible, and to have a set plan and stick to dates. That really concludes our talk. At this point, I'd like to thank David and Linda for participating in the Better Farm program. They've been excellent farmers to work with. I've been up this there since 2008, and they've put up with me and my demands and requests, and no task was ever too difficult. There was a lot of recording there. Both Linda and David were very diligent in recording and very good record keeping, and anytime we had numerous groups coming and are still coming, farm walks. So we really appreciate the effort and the time that they've given us. So a big thank you again to David, to yourself and Linda and family for your participation in the program. So Philip, it's over to you, and we'll try and answer any questions that come in later.
Okay, thanks very much for that, David and John. An excellent presentation. It's great to see the progress that has been achieved, and it's a real credit to yourself, David and Linda, and all the work that John has done with you as well over the years. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions coming in. And I just remind everyone that at this point, you can submit your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll come to them after the next speaker. So next up tonight, we welcome Kevin McDermott. Kevin is the manager of Sheep Ireland, which is the national body responsible for improving the rate of genetic gain in the Irish sheep industry. Kevin is another Donegal man. He grew up on a sheep and beef farm near Moville, County Donegal, and graduated from UCD in 2011 with a degree in animal and crop production, and also went on to complete a research master's also at UCD. Since joining Sheep Ireland in 2013, Kevin has focused on improving the genetic gain in sheep in Ireland via improved genetic evaluations, better performance recording infrastructure, and farmer education. Significant strides have been made in this area, and particularly in the lowland sector. However, the hill sector is currently underrepresented in the National Breed Improvement Programme, as there is less of an underlying breeding structure compared to the lowland sector. This is something that he would like to see change, and some new initiatives and technologies which have recently started to try and focus on that. And these will serve as examples of what can be achieved via parentage recording and genotyping in pedigree hill flocks. And this is the focus of Kevin's presentation tonight. So over to you, Kevin.
Thanks, Philip, and good evening to everyone. My talk this evening is on how we can protect and progress our hill breeds and the sector by establishing hill flock books. So the hill sector is obviously very important. It provides a source of income from marginal land. You as hill farmers are helping to maintain the flora and fauna that has developed on the hills over thousands of years and keeping the biodiversity high in Ireland. And you're also providing maternal genetics to the lowland sector, which are hugely valuable. So the current situation is we have 2 hill flock books that have just recently formed in Ireland. So it's all still very new. In comparison to the lowland sector, where pretty much all the lowland breeds have long established flock books where they have lots of ancestry information on the breed. The 2 breeds or the 2 flock books that have recently been established is the Donegal Wicklow Cheviot flock book and the Mayo Connemara Blackface flock book. So the Cheviots were a little bit ahead, so they actually had set up just prior to the sale this year, and got some really good coverage for that. You know, so look, the idea even of pioneering sire verification for the rams at the sale. So a very high percentage of the rams at the sale actually had their sires verified via DNA purposes. And you can see on the right hand side here an example of a ram that was at that sale, where the animals in the catalogue are following the Sheep Ireland format. The breeders the buyers had information on the ancestry, information on the animal, and they also had Eurostar information on the animals as well. So some of the breeders went from 0 to 100 really quickly and done, you know, a top job. So how will a flock book help them? So there's a couple of areas. First, it's protecting the breed from dilution from, say, other strains or from inbreeding. And we'll touch a little bit about that again in a while. To set up a foundation for systematic breed improvement. So, you know, the old saying, you know, if you don't measure it, you can't improve it. And it's a great platform to help promote the breed and to give the breed some pardon me, we'll go with validity. You know, that there is data behind those animals, that, you know, that there is a robustness behind the animals that people are coming to buy. Getting set up with the flock books as well, it also gives benefits from, you know, we saw the catalogue there earlier. So, you know, the way that the data is presented to potential buyers, and also then having things like online flock books and directory of breeders. So here's just a summary of some of the data from the National Sheep and Goat Census from 2019. So look, my point here is quite a simple one just to take away from. If we can improve these 19% of sires here, that's going to have a knock-on effect on this cohort of ewes here. So these hill ewes will have been bred by these 19%, and these hill cross ewes will have either been will more than likely will have had a hill grandsire in their background. So the percentage of these guys that are having an impact on the national yoke flock is quite high. If we assume that your average hill ram lasts for 4.5 breeding seasons, then that means we need about 3,500 new hill rams every year. So I suppose, look, that's our long-term target. We want to be producing 3,500 hill rams from flockbooks in time, because it's going to have a massive impact on the national flock. So why should we get started now? Well, there's new and improved genomic services that are just been launched in the last couple of years, and they're continuing to improve. There's been a lot of advancements in technology and infrastructure in the last number of years, and there's an increasing interest in protecting bloodlines and progressing the breeds. I suppose with some of them looking at what's happening in the lowland sector and wanting to, I suppose, get involved in that side of things. So what is genomics? So it's the study of an individual animal's DNA profile. And while genomics itself might be quite complicated, luckily the process itself is very easy and very simple. So what happens is DNA is collected by inserting a tissue tag ordered from Sheep Ireland into the animal's ear. The tissue sample that's collected, very similar to if any of you are familiar with collecting tissue samples for BVD tags, for example. That tissue sample is then collected and sent off to the lab for analysis. The lab reports that analysis back to Sheep Ireland. We can then do loads of stuff with that information, and I'll try and go through most of those results as quickly as I can now. Just before we go on, just to show you, how simple it is. So on the left here we have our tiger, universal tiger, and on the right here you see a Cheviot ram here that's recently been tissue sampled. So it might be hard to see it there given the size, but the text or the numbers around the side of the screen tag here match the tag number of the animal, which gives it an extra layer of security that you know if an animal has been genotyped, it can be referenced back and matched back to the tag number of the animal. So really easy process to order those genotypes. So the first thing that we check when we get results back is for parentage information. Obviously, from a flockbook point of view, parentage is the king, and that's what the entire flockbook is built upon. So genomics can allow us to match sires and dams to their lambs where they have also been genotyped. If we look at the lowland sector, we're seeing parentage error rates of 8 and 8.5% in sire and dams there. And while we don't have a huge amount of data available yet on parentage errors on the hill flocks, we've no reason to suspect that it would be any lower than that. And it's I suppose to a certain degree to be expected. There's a lot of opportunities for parentage errors to occur in sheep farming, whether that be from mating time to they've been recorded, to tagging issues. There's a lot of places where one little slip up can result in a parentage error. So that's to be expected. But the good thing is we can now use genomics to verify sires and dams of lambs with 100% accuracy, and especially on our stock rams that are the most important in any flock. So this is an example of the ancestry of a Texel ram. So look, the Texels have had flockbook in Ireland now for decades. So we see this ram here, Hall's Dance. He's got his sire here has been DNA verified, we can see, and the dam has been DNA verified also. And even if we go back another generation, the sire has also been DNA verified to his parents. So you can see that the DNA verification does build up rather quickly, and we only would have started this in 2015. Whereas if we go back to these older animals, this sire hasn't been DNA verified to this ram as of yet. So these green lines indicate where they've been verified. And it can give a breeder and a buyer security that when they're buying an animal, that it is essentially what it says on the tin. The next result that you can get back is scrapie, and this may be of interest to some farmers. So just to explain the table that we're looking at here, we've got the scrapie types 1 through to 5. 1 being the most resistant, and people might be familiar with the scrapie type ARR. Those would be the 1s. And then the 5s are the least resistant. So you take your VRQs, and this is a sliding scale. So the further this way you go, or the further to the 5s that you go, the less resistant you are to scrapie. I think the interesting thing here from a hill point of view is, look, given the numbers are still relatively small, but we've got a significantly higher percentage of hill rams falling into the scrapie type 3, or animals, I should say, falling into scrapie type 3 compared to the lowlands. So by getting more animals genotyped, farmers that are interested in breeding more for scrapie resistance, there'll be more animals with a scrapie genotype result available, and to allow you to do that more easily. The next piece of information you get back then on the genotypes as well is around genomics, genomic inbreeding. So inbreeding occurs when an animal has 2 close relations on both the sire side and the dam side. Traditionally, hill flocks would have tried to avoid inbreeding by purchasing rams from different breeders every year, hoping that the genetics used in the flock that they bought from last year isn't in the flock that they bought from this year. But of course, there's no guarantee that's going to work, because of course, breeders are also sharing genetics between flocks. So you could go to a different flock the following year and end up still buying a half brother of the ram that you purchased last year. So if you do that, you're going to be breeding ewe lambs in the flock with a higher level of inbreeding. And we know from the dairy sector, recent work published here in Ireland, that for every 1% increase in inbreeding, it resulted in 0.5% decrease in milk production. So it does have a negative effect on the actual performance of the animals in your flock, whether that be through less growth rate or less milk or less fertility. So from 2021, so again, really fresh work and fresh results. All genotyped animals will be getting a genomic inbreeding result for themselves. Now there's more work to do in this area, and we're hoping that potentially that we will be able to help farmers then report the genetic relationship between 2 stock rams. So you've used a ram last year, you're thinking about buying a new ram, you'll be able to ask Sheep Ireland, how related is that new ram to my old ram? And we'll be able to say, look, he's either very related, he's probably a half brother or cousin, or he's a distant relation, he's fine, he isn't that related to your old stock ram, which will give you some more, I suppose, a little bit more of assurance that you're not introducing inbreeding to the flock. This is a simple report that we currently have on the website, and this is based on the ancestry information recorded. So I just took a Cheviot flock here as an example. So what this allows flocks to do is they can input rams, potential rams, maybe that they're thinking of buying. And so in this case, they've checked out 4 rams against their 2020 females. So you can see 3 of the rams are coming back with they're all lowly related to the females, whereas one of the sires here, the first one, there's a few females in the flock that he's actually highly related to, and this means the farmer has 2 options with that ram. He either just avoids him completely, or if he does bring that ram into the flock, he'll have to do very selective mating to ensure that ram doesn't mate with those females that he's highly related to. So this report is highly, it's extremely useful, especially for flocks that are already recording. And after a couple of years performance recording as well, this is something potentially you could use in your flock. Typical inbreeding at the minute probably ranges from, just to give you an idea, I suppose, on the effect that it could be having. Typical inbreeding at the minute ranges from 1 to 5%, but it can go as high as 30% in cases where you've got a sire mating with a daughter or something, for example. The next element of the genomic results is the animal breed profile. Breeders have told us that they're worried about the genetics or the bloodlines that they have are getting diluted with other strains. For example, take the Mayo Connemara's who have recently established. They want to ensure that the Mayo Connemara breed and the genetics that have been built up there over the generations doesn't get diluted down with bloodlines coming in from Scotland or something like that. Genetics perhaps that aren't best suited to the area. So they want to, I suppose, ring fence those Mayo Connemara genetics to ensure that that they stay pure, and that those genetics, I suppose, can keep working into the best of their ability for the Mayo Connemara region. So with genomics now, we for the lowland breeds where we have lots of animal information and lots of animals genotyped, we can tell with a pretty high degree of accuracy now if we genotype an animal that it's 100% Texel, or that it's 60% Suffolk, 40% Charolais, or something like that. So this is something by genotyping more and more stock rams, another service that could be made available to the hill flock books as well. And it helps give some integrity to the system as well. And the final part of genomics then is genomic evaluations, which we just launched in Ireland here in 2020. They essentially, what genomics evaluations do, they allow us to fast track how we identify the most profitable or the most important bloodlines in a flock. And we do this by comparing, again, that same piece of DNA against all the other animals that have been genotyped or DNA'd in the database. And we can compare how those animals performed against this newly genotyped animal. It allows us to generate a very accurate or more accurate evaluation at a much younger age. So look, that's all that we can get from genomics at the moment. There's obviously a lot involved in that, we can go into that in more detail with anyone as they wish after the meeting. So then technology and infrastructure. So all sheep are now EID before they leave the farm, which does create opportunities to capture lots of data and to capture it really quickly and accurately with EID readers. Sheep Ireland have launched an app, a free app, that can totally remove paperwork from parentage recording, and that can also be linked up to an EID reader as well. So if we see in the picture here, we've got an EID reader here reading tags, and that's feeding the information back to the phone. And that information then is working its way right up to the Sheep Ireland database. The Sheep Ireland website is continuously developing as well and improving with new features and reports. For example, a new online flock book system. So here, for example, we see the Mayo Connemara online flock book, which means that both breeders and potential buyers can go on there to look up the details of maybe rams that they bought in the past, or rams that they're thinking of buying to get more information on their ancestry or their Eurostar evaluations. I think an important note is so there's 850 Lamb Plus flocks at the moment. 99.5% of them have signed up to record their information online or via the app. So I think that stands to testament for how user-friendly the website and the app is, and how much I suppose the Sheep Ireland team works with breeders to talk them through it, especially in the first year or two, as to what to record and how to record it. In saying that, if there is anyone who is seeing this now and thinks, oh, that's a stumbling block for me, I'm just not technology savvy, look, there is options, whether it's someone else in the family or the area who's in the sheep breeding game as well, put the information up, or look, talk to us in Sheep Ireland and we'll come up with some sort of a solution. So this, I suppose, look, this is where we need everyone really to pay attention. This is the crux of it. It is so easy now to get started in ancestry recording or parentage recording in hill flocks, thanks to genomics. So the first level, which is the simplest level, is just to genotype all the stock rams in the flock. And if as a group or as a flock book decides to genotype all the stock rams in the group, that means every time a new stock ram comes into the group, and gets genotyped, he's going to get his sire identified through genomics. It's that simple. And then as time goes on, more and more animals will become sire verified, and it'll just become the norm that all stockrams have at least sire verification. So that's the entry level, and that's something I think that's achievable in pretty much all flocks. The second level then, which is a little bit more information, is to do some single sire mating in the flock for 1 or 2 cycles, matching lambs to their mothers at birth. So similar to what David would have spoke about there earlier. Again, there's options here. If some flocks may be quite large with 300 or 400 ewes, and that's too big of a step for them to go in 1 year, or maybe forever. What some flocks are doing is they'll pick out their nucleus ewes. So they'll pick out 50 or 60 ewes, they're better ewes, and they'll single sire mate those, and then that becomes their nucleus flock, and those are their 50 or 60 ewes that they will continue to performance record year after year. The result of that is that all the lambs in the flock book end up with full ancestry. So they're getting their sire from the single sire mating, they're getting their dam from being matched to their mother at birth. And then, this level, it takes a little bit more work, as David would have said, but you are filling out both sides of the ancestry tree, and you apply the little bit of genotyping on top of that we were doing in level 1, and you start to build quite a robust flock book. And then level 3, and again, level 2 and level 3 are optional. These are working your way up. Level 3 then is recording some performance information like the weights on lambs, number of lambs born, things like that. Adding that information on top means that you'll get breeding values for your rams and for your females. You'll be getting you'll have flock reports that you can use to help manage your flock and compare year to year. So again, referencing back to David's, you can see what was the average weight of my singles at weaning in 2020 versus 21, 22. And you can use that information then maybe to pick out your poor performers and maybe your better performers as well, for that matter. And having genetic evaluations on your flock and ancestry, again, it's going to increase the number of customers that are interested in your animals and hopefully create some return custom. So my take-home message is then, parentage recording on hill breeds is possible. There are different methods available to suit most flocks, and parentage recording is one of the best tools we have, I think, to promote and protect our hill breeds. So if anyone wants to get in contact with us, either as an individual breeder to just start something on their own flock, or if there's a group who want to come together to consider starting a flock book or a breeding group, look, please contact us. The details are on the screen there now. Grab a photo, or you'll find us on Google as well. So with that, look, I'll stop sharing and hand it back to Philip.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for excellent presentation again. We've loads of questions coming in, and we're heading on time. So if we could get John to turn back on his camera and David camera and turn on the sound, and Kevin, you're here as well. I'll give you a break, Kevin, for a few minutes there. There's loads of questions, as I said, coming in for David and John, as well as yourself, Kevin. So we'll kick it off. First one for you, David, comes in from Mark. First question here: why not breed the replacement ewe lambs that are coming from the draft hill ewes? Would they not have been? Would they not have shown good mothering ability and lifespan, and could they be retained?
Well, they would be good ewes, but I have my number for the hull, so if I didn't put them to lowland, they would be sold. It was just to increase lowland numbers. That's
okay.
Really
Perfect. And I suppose a slightly related question to you again, David. How are the ewes that are bred to the Belclare rams or the Blue Leicester rams selected?
Well, for the hull, for myself, the Belclare, I usually pick my worst ewes just to go to the Belclare.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. We'll give you a break, David. If we go to John for a second, there was some impressive figures there in terms of the achievements in terms of improving output and the financials. There's a question in from Seamus and Michael. As I said, there's a lot of questions coming in, so we're trying to maybe amalgamate some of them here where they're very similar. The question, John, is what's included in the variable costs for the hill flock, and does the gross margin figures include farm payments?
Well, the gross margin does not include farm payments. It's excluding subsidies. Now, the variable costs, the main variable costs are feed, fertilizer, lime, and veterinary cost. But it also includes costs like contractor costs, which wouldn't be that high in a hill flock, or it's the same variable cost as you have in any enterprise. You would have contractor costs, seeds and sprays, herbicides, and levies and transport, and costs like that, straw, just other variable costs in. But the main costs really are, the main variable costs are the concentrate feed, the fertilizer, and the veterinary costs, and usually maybe a bit of contractor costs depending on what happens.
Perfect. That's perfect, John. Thank you. We'll give you a break for a second, Kevin. If we come to you, again, a lot of questions coming in. We're trying to group some questions together. There is the first question in here and a good few questions on it. The cost of genotyping, the cost to the hill farmer and the hill farm breeder, the hill ram breeder. Where are we with that, and what can we say on that?
Yeah, so look, that's a fair question. So look, the cost of genotyping has reduced dramatically over the last 10 years or so, probably tenfold, I would say, since the mid-noughties. So currently, the full cost of genotyping is around $24.50 an animal. But Sheep Ireland is currently subsidising that cost down to €15 an animal for flocks that are part of Land Plus. So essentially, look, for your hill flocks, you're talking €15 a sample. Our hope is, look, that will continue to fall in the coming years, as well as technology just keeps moving on. But that's so we're at the €15 mark at the moment. So it is, look, it's not an unsubstantial cost, but we would be saying, you would only be genotyping your high value animals, essentially. So your stock rams, and in the case of some breeders and some flocks, they might decide to genotype the rams that they're bringing to a sale as well, so that they have sire verification on those animals at the sale, scrapie status, and breeding coefficient, so their customers have more information.
Perfect. Another question, kind of two questions that are related. A good few questions coming in on, do we have any estimates of the level of inbreeding within our hill breeds? And also, yes, if we were to start genotyping hill flocks, does it narrow the diversity available if only the recorded rams are available at sales? So I suppose questions around inbreeding are narrowing the pool, which obviously isn't the aim, but
no. Look, we don't want to narrow the pool. So I suppose at the minute, because of the lack of information that's there, it's very hard to give a precise answer. We do have a little bit of information gathered now, I suppose in the last year or two, from the flock books that have established. I suppose I'll put a health warning on this. Like, it's from a small. We're still working with a small number of animals, I suppose, to come to any conclusive answer. But there wouldn't seem to be a huge problem with inbreeding at a population level. But there is. We can definitely see there's been individual animals that have got a high level of inbreeding. In relation then to the narrowing of the pools, look, there is flock books in Ireland that look, they haven't got a huge ewe population size, somewhere between 1,000 ewes or 500 ewes even, and they're managing to maintain bloodlines without within those small populations, without necessarily driving inbreeding very high, because they have access to ancestry information and can make informed decisions to make sure they're not producing and breeding in their lambs.
Perfect, perfect. I'll give you a break there for a second, Kevin. If we come back to you, David, for a second, there's a good few questions coming in here around the feeding of the ewes on the hill. So you were talking there about feeding the cob nuts to the ewes on the hill. A few questions around what level of feeding you're giving them and how you manage that.
I usually go up every second day, but it would work out about half a kilo for the singles every second day. That's
okay. Perfect. And there's also a question here relating to the video there that you were showing your recording at lambing time. I suppose it feeds into Kevin as well, but what was the function of using the different coloured discs with the tags? Is that a management aid for selecting or lambs, or what are they for?
Yeah, it's a management. It's with the ewes being single sire mated, I assign a coloured tag or disc to a ram, and it just makes the sire easily identified. Just
okay, so that aids then in your recording later on to be able to select out.
Yeah,
perfect. If we can come back to you, Kevin, quickly. There's a question in here on, do we need to focus more within our hill breeding programs on longevity?
Yeah, we certainly do. Look, we've spoke to a good few farmers around the country now in recent months, as we're trying to ramp up the effort of doubling down on the hill sector. Longevity is certainly, it's a trait that keeps coming up from breeders' point of view. It's something that they're really interested in, something they want to improve. And breeding and recording ancestry is one really sound way to try and do that. So look, one of the things that came up from working with the Mayo Group, for example, they really wanted to try and to focus on longevity from the mouth point of view, to breed animals that retain the full mouth for longer. So look, we're now doing a bit of collaboration with some people in SRUC. They've done a bit of work on this over the years. So our plan is to start recording that here now as well. And once we start recording it, then we can start selecting for it and making improvements in it. And it's the same for any trait. If we start recording it, we can start making improvements in it. And I suppose an ancestry is the foundation to all that. If we don't have ancestry information, you're limited in what you can do.
Okay, yeah. And I suppose one more there, Kevin. There's a question in here on kind of the minimum number required to start a flock book.
Yeah, it's how long is a piece of string? It's a case of more the better. There's no minimum, I suppose, per se, likewise as in there's no maximum. I would probably say, from within a flock population, the minimum you're going to do, I suppose, is, you're probably going to single sire mate one group of ewes with a particular ram anyway, and you're probably going to do that with 20 or 30 ewes. If you decide to single sire mate two rams, that's two groups of 30 ewes apiece, so maybe 60. But it very much depends on your flock size, your structure, how you're, have you got many paddocks or means of keeping ewes and rams separate for that one or two cycles at mating time. So look, that's something we can discuss with anyone that's interested.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Kevin. Look at we've gone on here now for over the hour. There was a lot of questions coming in, so we tried to ask as many as them. At this point now, I'm going to start wrapping things up because we've gone on for overtime as it is. Just a few things, a few thank yous really. I want to sincerely thank the three lads, Kevin, David, and John, for their presentations tonight. They were excellent, and it's testament to that, the amount of questions that have been coming in. I want to thank you for all the work and preparing for it. Your presentations, and also the papers will be available. There's papers to go into more detail on some of the aspects that maybe we haven't been able to answer questions. You will be able to find them in the papers, which will be published on the website over the coming days. I suppose I do want to sincerely thank David and his family for being participants in the Better Farm programme over the last good number of years, and their time in the Better Farm programme is coming to an end. And on behalf of the Teagasc Sheep team, I would like to sincerely thank you for all your contributions over the years, and wish you continued success for the future. John Cannon, as our director, outlined at the outset, John is retiring from Teagasc at the end of the month. And again, on behalf of the Teagasc Sheep team, I'd just like to sincerely thank you, John, for all your work over the years, all your contributions. On a personal level, it's been a pleasure to work with you. And any requests to go to Donegal to facilitate a group meeting or a walk or whatever, you know, was always a very enjoyable day for me with the amount of work that you put into them. And we'd all like to wish you a long, happy and healthy retirement.
Thanks, Philip.
Just a few other people, obviously, we'd like to thank the director for opening the conference, our colleagues in PR for helping in organising and this conference and for the advertising. Especially also our advisory colleagues around the country for their help in organising and promoting the event, and especially Tommy Doherty in Donegal tonight helping with the technology. I'd like to thank Declan McCardle, our online media specialist, for broadcasting this event tonight. And I suppose most importantly, I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for tuning in tonight in such large numbers. Hopefully you will have all taken something from it, and that you can implement on your own farms. And as I say again, the recording of tonight's conference will be available on the website in the coming days, and the papers at www.teagasc.ie/hillsheepcon21. And finally, I'd just like to remind you that tomorrow night the conference continues with another two papers, same time, 8 p.m, same place through the link. So finally, I just again thank you all for joining us tonight. And until tomorrow night, good night and stay safe.